Very warm greetings to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluko. We begin today's episode of Tax Matters with joy and happiness flowing like rivers in our hearts. And why? Just at the beginning of the week of Monday, the 17th of February, the Federal Inland Revenue Service won an award for its recently repackaged and vibrant website. The Federal Inland Revenue Service was adjudged runner-up social media icon in the government category at the Order 2014 Social Media Brands Award. The award was received on behalf of the FRS by Mr. Emmanuel Obeta, Director, Communication and Liaison at the FRS. What does this award mean to the FRS?
It means a lot to be recognized by an independent and a reputable world-class brand consulting firm in Nigeria, and via a survey that was done, objectively across Nigeria as the second website or social media brand in Nigeria within the government circles. And here it's important, we're not talking about the traditional media in terms of the newspaper, radio, and TV. We're talking about the social media platform. And then bearing in mind that the world has gone social media, it is very important because we're also engaging with the new generation, okay? Because predominantly the people who are very active and most active on the social media are the younger people, well, up until 40 years. So we're actually engaging with the right kinds of people. And bearing in mind that the statistics says that 46 million Nigerians are alive, and active on Twitter, Facebook, and other social media platforms. That means we're engaging with the critical number of the Nigerian taxpayers, both present and then future.
Madam, your department is driving the website project for the FRS. What can you attribute this to?
I'll just say that it's like a pat on the back for a job well done. I remember the several reviews that we went through during the design, the feedback we were getting from stakeholders from within the country and outside the country. We actually tried to target feedback from the rest of the world, from different continents, and we did get feedback from them before we finally went live with the website. So for us, it's a pat on the back for a job well done.
Mrs. Angel Fadaunsi is the head of the Saficom unit at the FRS.
As part of the FRS, yes, we will utilize as many means as possible to reach our taxpayers, to let them know how they can channel their complaints and inquiries to us. So yes, we do appreciate receiving this award, and we do think that going forward in the near future, we should be utilizing social media more effectively to reach our taxpayers.
How do you ordinarily process inquiries from taxpayers through the Saficom medium? How do you process these complaints, these commendations, whatever?
Typically, when we receive complaints or inquiries from taxpayers, we ensure that we respond to them within we acknowledge receipt within 48 hours, and we try to resolve the issue within 10 working days. And as much as possible, we maintain contact with the taxpayer on the issue, let them know the stage they are in the complaint by constant emails and telephone calls.
Welcome back. The program is still Tax Matters, and what we want to do now is to bring you the concluding part of our story from Shagamu, talking about the sensitization workshop that was hosted by the FRS Micro and Small Tax Office in Shagamu, Ogun State. But before then, Christina is here to take us on a tour of that Shagamu MSTO.
Welcome to Know Your Tax Office. This week, we're taking you to the Micro and Small Tax Office of the FRS in Shagamu, Ogun State. You can approach the MSTO from the Ikorodu Shagamu Cement Road and the Benin Shagamu Express Road.
This office covered about 9 local governments.
9 local governments?
9 local governments, which include the Shagamu local government, the Kenan local government, Odobolu, Ijebu North, Ijebu North East, Ijebu Ode, Ijebu Waterside, Remon North, and Ijebu East local government. The majority of our taxpayers here Basically, they are taxpayers that fall within the micro and small businesses with a turnover of less than 200 million. They are to register with us. Their returns, they are to file it here. Their remittances, they are to do it. Particularly those ones within the jurisdiction of those 9 local governments I mentioned, including the NGOs. If they are here, we register them, but eventually we transfer them to our medium tax office in Abuja. Our own main business here is to grow the small taxpayers. But the moment your turnover shoot above 200 million, then we'll move your file to the next level, which is a medium tax office. For the one that cover the western region, we have it at Ibadan. Our medium tax office is in Ibadan. Right now, I think they moved to Abuja.
On other categories of taxpayers?
Even churches, they are meant to register and even file their returns.
Even though they don't pay taxes?
Well, they don't pay taxes. They are just like agents to government. There is some situation whereby they engage in commercial ventures. The law allows them to file their returns, pay their taxes, including CIT, as applicable.
What kind of commercial services are you referring to here?
Yeah, for church or mosque. Supposing you have a property letting company and you rented such apartment or property on commercial basis to the users, eventually you are ought to charge them VAT. And because you earn income, rent on that, the law also allow you to file your income tax returns to this office.
Thank you, Christina. Now to Mrs. Adelego. Last episode, she was only able to deliver that part of her treatise on the roles of the external auditors. Today, she's going to be looking at the roles of tax consultants and the roles of banks or bankers, if you like.
You all know that tax consultants are agents of the clients, and they are meant to be experts. Some of their roles are stipulated in Section 5, Part 1 of Self-Assessment Regulation, which says that the tax consultants are expected to prepare and file duly signed tax returns on or before the due date in a prescribed format. So now your client has appointed you to act on his behalf to file returns. So when there is a delay in filing of returns, I don't think the challenge is with the client. It's now with the consultant, because it's your responsibility to assist the taxpayer in filing his returns. And if you are not the one doing it directly, you have to remind the taxpayer before the due date that your returns will be due on so date. Bring all the necessary documents so that we can file your returns for you. You are also to assist clients during tax audit. It is amazing when we go out for tax audits, and when we get to the taxpayer's premises, we don't see the consultant, we don't see the auditor, we only see the client, and we ask them, where is your consultant? Where is your auditor? The clients will say they are not here. It is our responsibility as consultants, tax consultants, to assist the taxpayer during audit. We are also to liaise and negotiate with the tax authorities on behalf of clients, because some of our technical language, sometimes we call it technical jargon. The clients don't understand them, but we as professionals, we understand ourselves. Let me put it that way. And when we are talking, we are speaking the same language. That is why we need to be available to assist the client in liaising with the tax authorities at the end of the audit. Then we must also ensure that tax legislations and regulations are complied with. The tax consultants must also be tax compliant, just like I said about the auditors. Finally, I go to the banks. Now, some of the roles of the bankers are highlighted in the FRS Establishment Act 2007, and also in the agreement signed with FRS. As bankers, it is your role to assist us in collecting tax payments from the taxpayers. And when you do so, you release the e-tickets to them, which is the first evidence that these taxpayers have paid their taxes. We want to just restate it here because we've had challenges whereby taxpayers come to our offices and they tell us, I don't have e-tickets. It is our responsibility to generate e-tickets for taxpayers after paying their taxes. Secondly, we are expected to deliver some information to the tax offices in line with the collection agreements signed with the bankers. I'll quickly run through some of them. One of them is filing monthly and quarterly returns, which includes names and addresses of new customers of the bank. This is in line with Section 61 of CITA, Cap C21, and it's also in line with Section 28(1)(c) of FRS Establishment Act. Then secondly, we expect to notify FRS of all transactions of amount in excess of 5 million for individuals and 10 million for corporate bodies. As we are filing out returns, we should note that it is important to state the names and the addresses of all the participants, all those who are involved in those transactions. Then we are also expected to request for taxpayers' identification number when a customer comes to open a corporate account. Then we are expected to report any suspicious transaction to the FRS for appropriate action. The collecting bank shall not engage in any activity or act that may be construed as preventing the taxpayers from paying their bona fide taxes directly to the FRS.
Now that the roles of the professionals in the subsector have been clearly spelled out, what happens when there are infractions? What are the offenses and penalties?
Now there are some offenses which we don't want us to fall into, and there are penalties associated with those offenses. We'll start with the external auditors. Now, where the auditor makes a false statement, if you make a false statement, the law says that he is criminally liable on conviction at the High Court to 2 years imprisonment. The second one is where the auditor is negligent, he can be sued for inaction for damages. That's Section 368 of CAMA. Now, the consultants, who are really the representatives of the taxpayers, the extant laws frowns at tax consultants or agents making false returns on behalf of taxpayers. More often than not, the taxpayer will say, I can only afford to pay 100,000. And the consultant too will just panel beat everything and present something that will reflect just 100,000. These are offenses which attracts penalties. Obstruction and hindrance of authorized officers. When we come to your office, we say we want to audit, to your taxpayer's office, and you as a professional, you are obstructing us. You don't want us to perform our duty. It is an offense, and it is liable on conviction to a fine of 200,000 or 3 years imprisonment or both. This is also in FRS Establishment Act, Section 41. Failure to deduct or remit taxes. If you fail to assist the taxpayer in deducting or haven't deducted, you refuse to remit. This has been the case with value-added tax and some other taxes. The offender shall be liable on conviction to the tax withheld, plus penalty of 10% per annum of tax not remitted. Interest at prevailing CBN minimum rediscount rate and imprisonment for 3 years. This one, the penalty is much. Banks will also be liable to punishment if they fail in performing their roles in effective tax compliance, as stipulated in Section 28.3 of the FRS Establishment Act. And some of these punishments and offenses and penalties are listed below. Banks have failed to submit the information required as stated above. Those information that I said, filing of returns of newly opened accounts, transactions that are above 5 million, such banks shall be liable on conviction to a fine of 500,000 naira and 50,000 naira for corporate and individual customers respectively. When we say 500,000, you may say it's not much. 500,000 per customer, per corporate customer, 50,000 per individual customer. By the time you sum everything together, you will know it's much. Failure to remit the taxes collected within the specified period shall attract a flat rate penalty of 1% of amount not remitted and interest on the default sum of 3% above the NIBOR rate, prevailing NIBOR rate. What we are saying is that there has been some cases whereby taxes collected, though it is very, very minimal, taxes collected, if they are not transferred directly to FRS account within the stipulated period, it is an offence and it attracts penalty and interest. Alteration, wrong posting, and wrong classification of taxes without prior approval of FRS attracts a penalty of 1 million naira or the amount altered multiplied by the prevailing NIBOR rate, whichever is higher. Now, late submission of remittance documents attracts a fine of 50,000 naira for every day of the delay. Now, any bank that violates the provisions of the FRS collection agreements can be delisted. There have been cases of some banks that have been delisted in the past, and FRS is still doing it. Now, we go to the general offences. We said at the beginning that you are professionals and you are also taxpayers. Now, late submission of tax returns attracts penalty and interest as provided in the applicable tax law, and failure to pay tax on due dates, especially VAT, CIT, and all other taxes. If we refuse to pay them to the relevant tax authority, we shall be liable to pay penalty and interest.
Every day my people dey for work, some dey do office work, some get them own business, so all of them want good road, constant power for better life. Whether na office work, oh yeah, pay your tax. Whether na your own business, oh pay your tax. If you want a better life, oh pay your tax. Na your civic responsibility, pay your tax. Better soup, na money cook am. Oh yes. Nothing goes for nothing, my brother. If you want potable water, security and hospital for make life jolly.
That's right. Good roads, good hospitals, portable water, adequate security all come from taxpayers' money. Play your part in making Nigeria great. Everybody, small scale, big companies, entrepreneurs, do the right thing. Pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS.
Welcome back. As we did in the first installment, it is now time for the observations from the floor and the responses from the revenue side.
There are some taxpayers that have within tax credit notes that is in millions. What is revenue doing to assist the taxpayer in getting this credit notes out? Because we all know that is money that belongs to the taxpayer.
I do have some problem with my clients. When they give contract to some people, they withhold the percentage that should have been withheld from the withholding tax. But they cannot remit because the customer or the contractor fail to present their thing. You know, when they are trying to remit this money, they need the thing of the supplier, of the person that have done the contract, before they can remit this withholding tax that have been deducted.
Almighty withholding tax and withholding tax credit note. But come to think of it, like Mr. Fanny of the FRS once said on this program, what business do you have doing business with any company, any so-called company that does not have TIN? taxpayer identification number is sine qua non. No thing, no business. Period.
I have just two questions. One is on the issue of this microfinance bank. At times their accounts are ready, but the CBN will be yet to approve the accounts. What can we do in order to, stop the client from paying LRP since the accounts are ready? Because there have been years when we file this account, and by the time the CBN approves, there will be changes which will affect the tax that has been paid.
My question is on travel agents. Most of them, they are based on commission. And most times, by the time you prepare the account, you want to the turnover aspect, then the commission. But I discovered that most times whenever I want to file the account, they will want to tell you that you must pay VAT on the turnover. I want you to really enlighten us.
Welcome once again. They say there are two sides to every coin. And so Mr. Moses Opanike, the regional coordinator, Western Operations of the FRS, rose to the occasion, giving specific responses regarding the side of the tax authorities on the matters arising. On withholding tax and withholding tax credit notes.
We generate it online now. They are all generated online. Unlike when we use hand to write, that's when we always have backlog. But now, when you go to the system, as long as the banks upload fully, within 30 minutes. However, we have some offices where we have all of them there, nobody come and collect. And I want to tell you, the issue of I-tax, it has rolled out in LTO Abuja last year. And all the LTO will come upstream this year. By the time I-tax come upstream, even it will not be necessary to collect this because your account will be credited immediately.
On companies that have statutory filing obligations to regulatory authorities like the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Financial Reporting Council.
Federal Revenue Service gave you the authority to go and choose your accounting date. Is that not so? Then 6 months after that, you have to file your return. So within 6 months, you can now begin to do what you need to do. However, if there's going to be any delay, why can't you write FRS? When you fold your arms, you won't prepare the audited accounts in time, you won't do audit, and you will not submit it there until maybe towards the end period, and you say inland revenue to wait. We are not aware. The law is there. It's going to come. So what I'm saying is that let's take it up at that level, discuss it, that these are the issues, so that FRS will know to do. But if you have done your own, you have the account has been prepared, it has been audited, you have submitted, send a copy to FRS and tell them, what about when you have already even prepared the account, it has been audited, and you cannot submit, maybe the company, the board has not met. What do you tell FRS? You write for extension. The law is there. The law is there, section 59, you can write for extension. And the law allows you that within 2 months, you can do it. But when you wait until June 38th, it is then you are not beginning. No. However, because of this self-assessment we are even talking about, let me dwell more, because we are not talking about it now generally, self-assessment. See, based on your last year assessment, you can pay something in advance, pending the time, okay, when that thing will finalize. Or you have estimated the tax. That's the essence of voluntary compliance, self-assessment. You have already prepared the account, you have known your tax, it may be more, it may be less. Why can't you go and pay that tax? That's already there. Okay? That's already there, pending the time when you get approval. And even if the tax you have paid is higher, it will be there as a credit. Automatically you are doing that one to avoid what? Penalty. There are so many things we can do. You can even, as January has ended now, if your accounting year end is December, and you are supposed to file your return in June, or not before June, you can start paying that tax from January. Pay that tax. You see, there's what they call in the law, there is this professional, yes, professional something. It's there. That if you know your tax return is going to be late, look at what you paid last year. Paid it in advance. It could be higher by 1 naira, or by 10 naira, or by any amount. However, it should not be lower.
And on the tax obligations of travel agents and tour operators.
This airline agent, what do they collect? Commission. Then automatic commission is their turnover. Just put it their commission. You are not supposed to put the money paid by the travelers.
We thank you most sincerely for joining us on today's episode of Tax Matters. Let's do this again next week. Same station, same day of the week, same time of the day. Tax Matters is always here. It's as constant as the Northern Star. Have a blessed week ahead, and bye for now.